Now, the levels of consciousness is a mind-blowingly powerful marketing distinction / life distinction / personal development distinction that I've come across. And my journey to get here has been pretty long. I've been studying marketing and psychology basically since I was 14 and started my marketing career. Now, I started my marketing career through radio, believe it or not. I was the ZM Black Thunder Boy, which was a radio station in New Zealand. And I learned very quickly that I liked giving away free stuff, because that was basically all I did for that job. But then when I started getting more interested in psychology and interested in marketing, I actually started my initial pursuit was to study marketing and psychology so I could bring the whole thing down. I wanted to crumble our capitalistic model. I wanted to destroy advertising as we know it. That was my mission as an angry 18-year-old vegan sustainability nut. That was my mission. So I studied marketing and psychology at university, got 2 degrees in it, and then I went for a job interview at the New Zealand Advertising Association. Now, if you've seen the show The Office, that's what I walked into. A whole bunch of zombied out, zoned out people not giving a flying F about anything. And I remember asking them, like, so what's the process here? Like, give me the lay of the land. And in the most monotone voice, this woman was just like, well, we get emails and emails of complaints. And then we prioritize those emails based on urgency. And I was like, what defines urgency? She's like, when they came in. Then we have a 3-month vetting process. Then we contact them if it's anything urgent. And then they have 6 months to remove the negative advertisement. Now, it's not law enforced, it's just our recommendation. Now, at this time, Hell's Pizza was using this to their advantage, and they were doing the most aggressive guerrilla marketing campaigns in New Zealand's history, where one instance, they put a whole bunch of dead rabbits on a billboard to promote a rabbit pizza. And obviously people complained because that's disgusting. And they kept the billboard up for 5 months and 29 days, and they put it down. But basically, I realized that no one was going to stop marketing. No one was going to stop advertising. So I decided to dedicate my life to promoting and learning consciously social marketing. And I pursued social enterprises. I pursued helping charities, and I pursued helping startups who had a good mission or a good product. And then ultimately, I fell in love with personal development. And that's where I've been focusing my efforts and my career for the last 5-6 years, is really growing thought leaders, getting world-changing ideas out of people's heads and into the world so I could really have the impact I wanted to use. Because I knew that everyone was going to be using marketing. Everyone was going to be using advertising. So I might as well empower the people that I like with the tools that I learn. Now, funnily enough, studying psychology and marketing parallel actually took me on this journey, where when you first learn about marketing, you might learn about, sort of wants and needs, which sit around the top here in maybe actions. What do people want? What do people need? And then I started learning more about, perhaps people buy because of a feeling. So then I explored this, and I spent a lot of time focusing on emotionally driven marketing and emotionally driven advertising. And I thought, okay, maybe there's layers deeper to there, because why are people buying a feeling? Why do they drink alcohol to feel relaxed? Why do they buy cashmere sweaters to feel warm and feel cozy? There's actually another layer deeper. And I've kind of given away my story here by having this slide up. But then I realized it was beliefs were powerful. So many people were buying based on beliefs. They brought a Maserati because they believed they'd look cool. They brought an expensive watch because they believed it meant a status symbol. They brought liked yogurt because they believed it would help them lose weight. But really, it was just watered down yogurt. And then again, another layer deeper, we get to identity-based marketing. This is where I got obsessed with archetypes. And I was like, archetypes is the answer. Archetypes is the thing I've been looking for my entire career that answers everything to do with marketing, everything to do with advertising, everything to do with selling. It was the thread to pull that answered all the questions. Now, archetypes is something I implore you to explore because it is mind-blowingly powerful when it comes to branding. I'm an expert in archetypes. I'm an expert in branding, and I love it. There is a brief video explaining the concept, and I also have a podcast episode about and more coming about it. That is truly a place that you should explore. And if you're ready to go even deeper to the true master level of marketing meets psychology, I'm about to take you through the levels of consciousness. This is truly the pinnacle of your leadership, of your business, of your customers, of basically everything, because it is defiant of the reality that we all create. So I'm giving you a leap year of 10 years. It took me 10 years to fully master the levels of consciousness. When I first really started diving into it 3 years ago, and then about 3 years to get to now. And boy, oh boy, is it a rabbit hole, and boy, oh boy, is it dense. And I'm just gonna really get us all present here that this is gonna be very intellectual. You're willful, or you're gonna wanna do stuff, you're gonna wanna action stuff, you're gonna have lots of questions for me and go, how does this apply to selling tea bags? And I'm like, well, okay, whoa. Well, how does this apply to my current predicament with my current client or my current team member? Whoa. Levels of consciousness that I'm about to take you through is going to be an ever-long theme throughout UBL. For across the next few days, we're going to constantly be revisiting this. So know that you don't have to master this right now in this 2-hour session. This is a beautiful overview and some deep dives into some powerful tables that I've made for you that you're going to screenshot the shit out of. You're going to be like, oh my God, screenshot. Got to get that, got to screenshot that. Even though you know you're going to get the slide deck later, you're still going to screenshot it, I guarantee it. Also, I'm excited for those who are familiar with this distinction and are ready for mastery, because remember, repetition is the ultimate mastery, and what new things you're going to hear, what new things you're going to see, what now you've spent, maybe some of you did UBL last year, and I went over this as well. It's like you may have now had a year of finding examples. And when I'm speaking to this again, you're going to go, that's right, that's this, that. You're going to really step into your mastery of this. So who's keen to skip 10 years of the marketing slog journey and just learn the ultimate marketing psychology paradigm that I've ever discovered? Yeah, you keen? All right, fantastic. I'm aligned. I'm happy to teach you because you're all such amazing. I was going to say GCs, but I don't know if I can say that. Amazing, beautiful humans. Please, by the way, disclaimer, don't share this with any assholes, okay? No assholes. We don't want assholes to know this framework because they might exploit it and do naughty things with it. Like get us to buy more Red Bull or something. So my quest to discover this journey or this levels of consciousness and turn it into the ultimate marketing psychology framework actually started with the distinction called the levels of energy. Now, you may have seen multiple versions of this, but my favorite thought leader on it is Mr. Frederick Dodson. I highly recommend his book, Levels of Energy. It'll be in the app, don't you worry. And he basically put emotions or energy, because remember, emotions is just energy in motion, into a hierarchical order. Now, what you'll notice is the low levels of energy. Yes, they're low, but those are the ones that actually require the most energy. Only negative emotions require energy. Only negative emotions require energy. So negative levels, the low levels, these blue levels, they are the most densest and most heavy. If I just say the word depression, you probably feel quite heavy. If I say shame, guilt, anger, quite heavy. The next is this mid-level. In a way, these are kind of neutral, and they start elevating us. Going with, say, level 400, the word acceptance, neutral. Mid-level energies require more intellect, more knowledge, more reason, more attention. And this is a deep place to think. And then at higher levels, we've got joy and ecstasy and unconditional love and humor. These are all light. These are all free energies. And just again, I want to loop back to my favorite insight of this is only negative emotions require effort. Remember that when we start translating this into marketing. This is truly game-changing. And the best part about it is you can already probably think about is different products, like you've already experienced, the bread, the crackers, the fruit, perhaps a nice car, perhaps a nice house, perhaps a nice new phone you want or something like that, has a particular frequency to it. And we can tap into this through that next level to really communicate it. Because remember, this is the emotional level, this is energy. So the next level we get to go to is the levels of consciousness. And all of these, the low level, the mid level, and the high level, can be broken down simply into these categories. We have reactive and willful, intellectual, and intuitive. Reactive, willful, intellectual, and intuitive. Now, I'm going to be saying these so much over the next few days, so really let them land into your psyche. Reactive is what it is, what it sounds like, what it means is everyone in that consciousness just reacts and responds, cue, stimulus, response. Willful is about doing, do, more. Intellectual is very thinking, and intuitive is feeling. So if you want to put this in another way, in more blatant English, I encourage you to write this in your notes, is do, think, feel. Do, think, feel. Got it? Do, think, feel. Do, think, feel. Thank you, Cinca. Now, just to connect the dots, and I hope you have the same epiphany that I have, is these beautifully correspond to the levels of energy. Beautifully. And don't worry, I'm going to go into so much more examples and so much more detail around you as a leader, around your customers, around your business, around your offerings, all of it. This rabbit hole is only just beginning. But just to plant that seed is particular marketing efforts can be all around here to get a specific result. So what the hell is the willful consciousness? So again, the willful consciousness is about doing, hustle. I have to work hard in order to be worthy. Fail forward, prove others wrong. I'll figure it out with my brute force. Everything has to be hard, prone to burnout. Now, before you start psychoanalyzing yourself, we are all of these consciousnesses. We are in some parts of our lives, the willful, some parts the intellectual, some parts the intuitive. So no shame here, no self-beat up, none of this, none of this. We are all of them on a spectrum. This is the willful. Now, some of you might have potential clients that are in this. And again, we're going to go into a lot more detail. Next is the intellectual. These are the planners. Hard time starting making money here, but once you have a system, it can be amazing and consistent. This is that product and operation and that black section, that middle section of the 7 pillars of business. This is primarily where the intellects hang out. I was notorious in the startup world where I would be so ruthless to some startup founders with a potential product or SaaS service idea because they were here, they were in the planning, they were in the strategy, and they actually had to go down to like, yeah, but what does this do and who's this for? So many people can fall in love with their product because they're intellectualizing it. Anyway, don't worry, go into more detail. And then finally, the intuitive. The intuitive consciousness is all about being and feeling. Do work, simply create reality. Do the work to simply create your reality, sorry. Often do things that don't make logical sense, but best investment decisions ever. Who's ever had just an intense download to do something and it turned out to be just an incredible decision And sometimes you try and explain it to a partner or a friend and a family or whatever it is, and you just can't explain it, right? That's what we call an intuitive download. Now, let's go into some even more detail using these 3 forces of business and the 3 key most important pillars of your business. You, your business, and your customers. Now, let's go a little bit deeper. So, the willful consciousness is 87% of the human population. Just let that land. Just let that fun fact land, that number. 87% of the world live in the doing consciousness. Their lives are run by external stimuli, external forces, advertising, what their family thinks, what their religion thinks, all of it external forces driving them to do whatever it is they do quite unconsciously. It's all about doing and how can I do more? Do, go, more. The need for action is deadlines and scarcity. Again, I'm going to go into more examples on this from a marketing perspective, but a countdown timer works really well if your client is willful. Scarcity, I've only got a limited number of these stock left available. I only have limited time. I only have limited spots. All creates a need to action from the willful consciousness. Oftentimes, work is number 1. Family and friends are in between. A lot of our parents in the boomer generation, they were drilled into them, the willful consciousness. They were drilled into them to work. And they tried putting that ethic onto us as well. And we're like, no, I want to be free. I want to travel. I want to do this whole remote life. That's us trying to get out of this consciousness and evolve. The willful consciousness from a mass consciousness level is all about look at my life, look at what I do, look at what I have. The hyper-consumeristic world is driven by this consciousness. Now, from an entrepreneur's perspective, they won't hire people. Why? They're addicted to the doing. They get high as a kite from doing. And what they need, or they think they need, is fast growth now, and they have a never-ending to-do list. Who can think of a few willful people in their life? Who can think of times they've been a little bit willful? Who can think of areas of their life that they're still quite willful? Who thinks maybe they could probably flex their willful a little more and maybe they don't quite do enough? No, everyone's pretty high achievers. Oh, okay, I definitely had this for a few years where I was so caught up in the intellectual. The intellectual is 10% of the population. Yes, this all equates to 100%. So if there's 80% willful, there's only 10% intellectual. There's only 10% of the human population that primarily live in the intellectual consciousness. They're analytical, they're calculating before they make decisions. They're considerate, they love numbers and statistics and case studies. The most juicy, delicious, persuasive words to an intellectual consciousness is because and why. Fun fact, because is the most persuasive word in the English language. And any intellect will be butter in your hands if you give them a good because. They love stability. This is where a lot of politicians are, a lot of policymakers, and also all the world's billionaires are intellectual consciousness because they love process, they love structure. This is where the money is made, by the way. Why? Because you build processes, you build systems, you build teams, and you outsource yourself from the doing consciousness, the do, the more. This is where financial wealth can truly be created because it's about working smarter, not harder. It's the 10-year strategy, the long game. One of my favorite things is thinking about holding your capacity for time. Is a beautiful way to expand your consciousness. If you're currently focused on your day, try and make a 3-day plan. Plan your day for 3 days. If you're already there, plan a week, a month, a year, 3 years, 10 years. Billionaires think in decades. Millionaires think in like 3 years, and other people years and months and weeks and days and maybe even hours. Again, this is where the most successful business owners live from. They love creating systems. They love repurposing. They're aware of our ego's addiction to doing. Our ego is so addicted to control, doing everything in our business ourselves, making all our content, whatever it might be. The intellect is beautiful. Who knows they get to spend a little more time in the intellect? Who's keen to work smarter, not harder? It gets to be easy. Truly, just let this land, that this is possible for you. This is in our psyche already. We just get to lean into it and activate it, which I will teach you some strategies how to lean in and start practicing and strengthening your levels of consciousness. And the final one is 3% of the human population primarily live in this consciousness. Now, again, we are all of these consciousnesses all the time. When it comes to your fascination with running, you might be purely in the willful. When it comes to your finances, you're in the intellectual. And when it comes to your relationships, you're in the intuitive. We're constantly flowing and ebbing between these consciousnesses. And what if we could consciously bring them to certain areas of our life and business? A lot of what we do here at Untapped is primarily around getting people out of the willful, into the intellectual, into the intuitive, and then we send you back to the willful to go get some shit done. It's all the refocus challenge, particularly, is all about the intellectual. It's all about systems and processes to drive you up to here to then start sharing with you more mindset and more energetics. And then again, like I said, we throw you back down to the willful to get some shit done. So the intuitive is all about, what do I feel like doing? Very in the moment. I mean, I definitely encourage you to all spend at least a day in your intuitive. Just no plan, no schedule. What do I need today? What do I feel like? Okay, I want to go for a walk. I want to get a mimosa. I just want to, not a mimosa, I meant to say samosa. I want a samosa, and I just want to relax in the sun. The intuitive is driven by values, principles, education, and uniqueness. Hey, this is how I help people. I can't wait to work with you when it feels right. So for you, very intuitive coaches and healers, many of your offerings are probably intuitive, and that means many of your clients are probably intuitive. The strategy, which again, I'll go into more detail with, is just to add tons of value, because you can't force people to buy when they're in the intuitive, because they're going to buy when they feel like it. And this is where exponential wealth is truly created, because you have such a high connection and hugely tapped into so much energy sources. So where do you think you primarily operate from? Me personally, I operate in the intellectual. This is my default, is to think my way out of problems. When I'm stressed, I think. When I'm overwhelmed, I think. When I have a problem, I think I need to find it in a book. And then I'll feel, and then I might go into willful. Bryony, I know she won't mind me sharing, she primarily lives in the willful and the intuitive. And she just skips intellectual sometimes. She's got no reason for doing something, and she'll just charge ahead and do it. And I'm like, what did you just do? She's like, I got a download. I was like, okay, that's all good. That's perfect. So again, we're going to go into a lot more detail here. So don't stress that you have to answer this question right now perfectly, that this is where you primarily operate from. But let me know in the chat, what do you think your primary operator is? Where do you primarily live from? In, say, business as a context, as an example. Now, the final question is, what do you default to when you're stressed? Because this is quite an interesting one. Like I shared for myself, I default to thinking. I used to just think my way. Now I'm more trained. I can get back into the willful. I can get into feeling and get myself out of funks. But man, oh man, when I'm stressed, I just think. I think I can think my way out of shit. But if you're in your head, you're dead. Intuitive for me when I'm stressed. Yeah, sometimes emotions can be too big. Everything can feel very overwhelming when you're stressed. Just big. And then willful, you just think willing your way through it will get it done. Because remember, team, none of them are good or bad. They're all neutral. And all of these require energy. So when we're exhausted after a long day, of course, we're going to drop down to reactive. So just to give you full permission, if you've had a great work day and you're exhausted and you just want to vegetate out to some Love Island or some crap on Netflix, do it. Because you're just dropping into the reactive consciousness, and it's perfectly normal and it's perfectly helpful. But if it becomes a problem where you stay in there too long, maybe it's time to jump back out and do some other practices. But just know that we naturally ebb and flow throughout all of these consciousnesses. So one of my favorite things, and this is a one-liner I encourage you to write down, is mastering all three levels of these consciousnesses will make the most, you'll make the most money, you make the most impact, and you have the most joy in your life, in your work, in your relationships, all of it. Because this is truly the game. This is truly the game. We have to be really good at doing. We have to be really good at doing when we don't feel like doing. And we have to be really good at strategizing and planning the thing to do to then bring it into fruition. And then here is just some of my favorite ways to get into these different levels of consciousnesses for yourself. So I'm going to start with, as a journey for myself, as I wake up in the morning, primarily in my intellectual. And I'm just thinking there like planning, thinking, pondering some big question about business or life or purpose or existence or Bitcoin or whatever it is. I always wake up with a big question. It's always so random. And my job every morning is to get into willful so I can go do some work. So the very first thing in the morning is I go and exercise. Now, if during Health and Wealth, we share more about the hypo and hyper different levels of being, but really know what one you start the day with. For me, again, intellectual, big thinking. So I exercise, I fast, so I don't eat till about 2 p.m. every day. I play the most intense music. What I play for you guys is the low level. I play really intense music. And then if you've done any of Tony Robbins' work, firing your anchor, which is the neurological charge that you've NLP'd into your body to fire it off. Now, if you're about to step into a meeting with your accountant and you're in willful consciousness, you're just going to want to do something. You're just going to want to do. If you're getting on a potential sales call and you're still in the willful consciousness, you're going to probably be a bit salesy and a bit closing, a bit intense. So you must be able to change your consciousness depending on the task you're about to do. So if you need to do some strategizing, if you need to do some planning, go up into the intellectual. Remember your vision. Think of numbers. Do a quick bit of math. I know that sounds freaking random, but just get your phone out and just do some random equations, like 42 times 6 plus 8 times 1 equals 762. Wow. Eat. So again, my day is when I eat at 2 o'clock or around 2 o'clock, sometimes it's slightly earlier. Then I go straight into meetings. Why? Because meetings are all strategy. Meetings are all decision-making, all planning. And I want to be in my intellectual consciousness, which again, remember, is thinking when I'm in that state. And then when I need ideas, when I need creative expression, I go up into intuitive. Now, I'm sure you've all got so many practices already that you can think of to get into each of these states. But intuitive, nature, meditation, flow. These are just some of what you can do. And I know you're all beautifully creative. So if you have any other ideas you can think of, put them in the chat now for everyone to share, because this is truly the skill to learn, to truly master business. Because again, we have to get really good at doing, really good at thinking, and really good at feeling. Yes, you don't need to just do your habits for the sake of it. You do the tool habit you need to transition to the next LOC you want to be in, bringing more consciousness. This again is that like the final pillar of everything. To get into that state. I have to be really mindful of this going into social settings as well. I make sure I just close my eyes even for just 3 seconds and just do a little breath work, a little breathing, just to really get into my body, get into feeling, get out of my head. Even just holding my hand on my heart or just moving my body around just to get back in my body and out of my head is a really good, simple thing to do. I'm so intellectual at night before bed and I can't sleep. Journaling at night would be an absolute essential for you, and then probably a longer wind down period with less stimulation. So my wind down period is about 2 hours. I put the red light on, I go to bed, I sit in bed, I journal, and I kind of just sit there for almost 2 hours, just winding down, slowing down my brain. And to summarize all of this into a beautiful metaphor, team, is a fully conscious entrepreneur will meditate on top of a mountain. And on the way down, create a plan. And when you get to the bottom, they'll get to fucking work. Burn that into your brain. This is the answers. And just like I created earlier, not many problems are going to get solved staring at your laptop or staring at your social media, Instagram, following count, whatever it is. Your problems are solved when you get into the intuitive consciousness. When you truly get into that higher frequency of abundance, of creation, of joy, of why the hell am I even doing this? Getting the vision, getting the possibility. So starting your day with high frequency is really important.